He's ready to go on the Fan, New York Sports Radio. Mike's on, Mike's on. He'll get you the sports any way that he can. It's Mike Francesa on the Fan. Sports Radio 66 and 101.9 FM, WFAN.
From the studios of WFAN, this is Mike's on Francesa on the Fan on this Football Friday, the 8th day of December. As we finish up what will be the second to last week, next week, our final week, including the show at the Paley Center on Thursday. We have tickets today to give away to that. And then next Friday will be our last show with just the callers on Friday. So we have one more week to go. And we'll be at, obviously, Mulcahy's on Sunday with a Football Sunday show from 9 to 11:30 before the Giant game. We will see everybody there. But if you don't have a ticket, please, it's sold out. There's no more tickets. So if you don't have one, you're going to have to pass on that one. There's just not any more available. But we will be there on Sunday with that. So a lot going on as we go through these final days, the countdown as we get towards the last week of what seems, it's gone very fast. A very fast season. It was as quick as I thought it would be, and it has been. We talked yesterday about this Week 14 and how pivotal it was in the NFC. It began last night with a important win by the Falcons. Now, if you're a team sitting at 6-6, it was not a win you wanted to see because that really kills the 6-6 teams. The Cowboys, the Packers, who might have dreams of 10-6, because now the Falcons look like they're going to get to 10-6 or have a very good chance for 10-6. And if they get to 10-6, they're all dead because they have tiebreakers over everybody. They beat the Cowboys. They beat the Steelers. It's Cowboys, they beat the Seahawks, they beat the Packers, they beat all those teams. So, and they can still win the division if they win their last 3 games. They run the table. They win the division. So that was a big win last night on a night when, really you were shaking your head at some of the passes that Matty Ice was making. But a big clutch defensive play wins the game. Not a smart play, bad, but a very good interception, really was. And they go on to a hard-fought, come-from-behind 2017 win. Now you take that win and where that propels the Falcons after last night to get them to 7-5 and get them, to 8-5 after last night, and then. Right now, you have 2 big games. You have Minnesota and Carolina, and you have the Rams and the Eagles. So you're going to really move things around and really solidify things in a pretty big way in the conferences here, in the NFC here, in this weekend. So if you're the Cowboys, you're trying to stay alive and hope you can sneak in at 10-6. If you're the Packers, you try and win against the Browns and then get Rodgers back and try and win your last 3 games. If you're the Vikings, you're thinking about the 1 seed. If you're the Rams, you're thinking about getting a bye. If you're the Eagles, you're thinking about getting a bye. Those teams will play this weekend. The Eagles stayed on the West Coast after losing to Seattle and prepared for the Rams. So that's a very big game between the 2 young teams with the young quarterbacks, with the unproven coaches as they try to play a very important game there. On the AFC side, it's really the calm before the storm. Everyone's still hoping against hope that Shazier comes out of this okay. But the Steelers get a Sunday night game against the Ravens. They need to win the game, but already they have completely turned their attention to the Pats. The Pats don't do that. The Pats will play the Dolphins first without Gronkowski, and then the Pats and Steelers will play next week, 4 o'clock in Pittsburgh. And that game will most likely decide the 1 and the 2. We know those 2 teams are going to be the 1 and the 2. Most likely, barring a crazy collapse, they're going to be the 1 and the 2. They have a very large lead in that regard. And the question is where the AFC title game will be played. It will be decided next week. The Pats have just owned the Steelers. As you know, Tom Brady has riddled them time and time again. And we'll see what happens. And, of course, the Jets, who continue to surprise, go to Denver and face a Denver team that hasn't won since the 1st of October and seems to play worse every week. It's a game they can win, but not an easy game because, you never know when the team's going to jump up on, at home in a dangerous place. They do have some very good defenders. So the Jets favored on the road Mile High. Who would have thought that was possible this year? And then the Giants will get ready for what should be, believe it or not, with a 2-10 team and a very large number of Cowboy fans, and that'll be one of the things to look at, how many Cowboy fans are actually in the building. But it will be an emotional day now because of the support that Eli Manning will receive as he goes back in the starting lineup, and the Giants try to see if they can win some games. So this is actually a game that has a lot more interest and a lot more meaning than most games would with a 2-10 team on the field. 2-10 teams usually don't have very much that they're offering. This is an unusual 2-10 team playing the Cowboys in their building with Eli jumping back in. The support he will receive from the fans, it will be overwhelming, and to see whether Spags can start to make a pitch. His resume will be a performance resume that will begin this Sunday and try to see if he can make a 4-game pitch to keep a job that he has wanted, a job that he probably has coveted for a long time. His chance to get it, I think, is wrapped up in how well this Giant team responds to him in the next couple of weeks, how well it responds to Eli Manning, how well it responds, despite all the injuries and all the players missing, despite all the issues on the offensive line, despite all the banged-up players, both sides of the ball. Does this team have any life, especially in the next 2 games against the Cowboys and then the Eagles in the next 2? Then there'll be a trip to Arizona and then the New Year's Eve game at home against the Redskins to finish off this dreadful I'm sure for the Giants, a long, dreadful season. So we got a lot to do today on this Football Friday, all the stuff you would expect. We'll put a finish on the college football season with Gary Danielson, Army-Navy tomorrow. If you're interested in that, this is a more competitive game than in recent years. I mean, Army has closed the gap in the last couple of years. They come in with the better record, although they play a much easier schedule. Navy's just a 3-point choice. In recent years, they've been, 18 to 20 to 24-point favorites. This year, they're just a 3-point favorite in the game. And this is a highly competitive game, but we'll also talk about, really put our finishing touch on some of the college stuff and look even with Gary at some of the stuff, including the 2 big games that'll be played on New Year's Day to decide the national championship, as Oklahoma is right now a 1-point underdog to Georgia in the Rose Bowl. And then, of course, Clemson is a 2-point underdog against Alabama in the Sugar Bowl later that night. So you have the bowl season. You have the Heisman Trophy. It's going to go, obviously, to Mayfield in a runaway. There's no question about that. The other 2 people invited were Love and the Louisville quarterback. That's it. But, again, they will be very, very distant. This will be one of the most one-sided Heismans in a very long time. Very, very one-sided for the Oklahoma quarterback. The very cocky, controversial Oklahoma quarterback, but he has earned the Heisman in a big way this year. So we have that to deal with also. So a lot to do today, as always. You hear from the regulars. We'll have picks for you later on, too, for this Week 14, which began last night. I mean, I thought Atlanta would win the game last night going in the first quarter, watching the running game, just get away from them, watching some of the picks they threw before the half. I really was annoyed by the pick right before the half. And then when the Saints botched up the last play of the half and cost themselves the lead, I actually thought that was a very telling play. Now, they came out in the third quarter, another turnover, and then a quick touchdown, and you're saying, how many times are they going to turn it over? I mean, they turned it over, they threw 3 interceptions in a matter of moments. But their defense got stubborn and really made some good stands and actually played very well yesterday in that game. The Saints are a different team now. It's all tied up in their running game, and it's all tied up in what is really just a bunch of screen passes, an elaborate myriad of screen passes that work wonders, especially with Kamara, as talented as he is. And he has really burst on the scene. But that's how they play now. That's who they are. And they're pretty much a dink and dunk team and a very good running team but that was a tough loss for them. They haven't even locked down the division yet. The Falcons, I just think you still watch them, and they've won some of these games and lost some of them too. And they haven't had a whole lot of noise in their fancy new building this year. They've been very upset about that, and they've already lost there 3 times. They've actually played better away from home than they have at home this year. But they need to run the table, and if they do that, they win the division. So they still have a chance for that right now as they sit there. You have the Saints with 4 losses, Carolina with 4 losses, and Atlanta at 8-5. So a very good run there. And then Seattle, of course, the other team that is in the mix for the other wild card with the other team that's going to get it out of that division. So that's really where the power lies in the NFC this year, is in the South. All those 3 teams are going to fight right to the finish. They play each other a lot. Atlanta plays New Orleans and then finishes up with Carolina to end the season. So it's going to be right in front of them, as it was last night. That was a very big win for them and keeps them very much alive. And as I said, really was a very tough blow if you're 6-6 and dreaming that it was not the way you wanted it to work out last night. That did not help in the least. That did not help, because you need Seattle and either Carolina or Atlanta to really start to tank, really 2 of the 3 to tank if you want to get in somewhere along the line. If you're a Green Bay or a Dallas and you have dreams of running the table, you're still going to need help, because those teams have better records. They're a couple of games ahead with just 4 games to play. So we got a lot to do today. We'll get it all rolling right after this.